Ta.
Let me sing a cootie story, pay attention, listen to me. If you want to take or else, spend attention, leave it, baby. Life is very short, always be happy. Let's get right into it, Stephen. I did not deliver it. Can't hear you, Stephen. I can't. I'll do it again. Right. Again, Stephen.
Hello and welcome to another movie review from MBE. John, it is our first movie review since we did Bahubali 2, the conclusion, back in November, I think it was. There was a reason for that. We were doing Scam 1992 for about 7 or 8 weeks, and then we were doing WandaVision for the last 5 or 6 weeks. So we're back doing movie reviews, and what a way to kick it off, John, with Lokesh Kanagaraj's latest instalment, Master.
So bright.
And John, we've both watched this film over the last day or so. We've reacted to maybe about 4 or 5 trailers or segments of the film as well.
Yes.
Thoroughly enjoyed every moment of that experience, but it was time we sat down and watched this film. 3 hours, just short of 3 hours. I think it was 2 hours and 58 minutes running time for this movie. But I'm going to pass it over to you now, because as usual, you traditionally will take us through this review experience.
And Stephen, of course, we have a new rating system, if you'd like. We never used to officially rate movies, but we've decided to do it now. And it's essentially going to consist of an F through to an A. And for the record, an A has to be perfection. Not a single issue wrong with the movie, like a Parasite or something else. Utter perfection for a movie to get an A. F, utter catastrophe. So anything in between there is decent to crap. And we'll see where this movie lies as we go on. Stephen, as you did say, bring up this little graphic incidentally, we'll move on. As you did say, it's been a voyage of going through all of the telepathy sort of reactions, people recommending the Master movie, reacting to the first trailer, all of the little cutouts from the movie, the dance sequences, Cootie song and stuff like that as I was singing at the start, stuck in my head all day long. It's been a real enjoyable experience discovering this man, this movie, the build up to it, the excitement. I've enjoyed it tremendously, and now I've got to watch a movie. I have to say it's not been a disappointment. It's been more than I could have possibly imagined. I really, really enjoyed it. But that's the short review. I really, really enjoyed it. The long review, I'm sure we'll get into, Stephen. The way we're going to do this, we're going to do it slightly differently to what we used to do, where we went through blow by blow every single sequence in the movie. That was too long and winded. Now we've got bullet points, and we're going to speak about the movie and individual sort of components. And the first one I want to speak about is Telepathy VJ, Stephen. The man, the myth, the legend, this guy. First
Joseph.
time, yes, Joseph VJ, yep. Telepathy, aka the General, I think they call him. First time seeing this guy in a movie, Stephen. Obviously the trailers and stuff like that, we have watched a lot of this guy. Do you think the trailers and the snippets from this movie done this guy justice? Or do you think it was maybe building him up and it was an eventual letdown? We couldn't possibly live up to that level of energy and enthusiasm through a 3-hour movie. What was your thoughts on this guy? And I'll get into what my thoughts were after you've actually done speaking about him, Stephen.
Think the trailers, I think it did live up to his reputation, John, and his presence throughout this film. What I was surprised about was that we reacted to, I can't remember what one, the segment we watched was the one where they were lifting the sofa out into the sort of...
Vaffy coming.
Yeah. That's his introduction in the film. You know, it's a bit of a spoiler because that's the first time we see him,
But it was
and
great.
we see that whole. That's a great sequence, John. It's fantastic. It's very enjoyable. I've watched that 3 times now.
Yeah, it's
That
brilliant.
segment because it's the choreographies. You know, we'll obviously get into that. You know, is later on in this review, but just everything about that segment, his introduction. It was just great. You know, it was just. I think the trailers really uh, they weren't trailers, they were segments, but the trailers, the teaser trailer that we did first and then the official trailer that we did, we'll just talk about them. I think it's only fair that we talk about the trailers and not the segments of the films. Um, it was something about this guy, you know, he's very cool, but his presence, it was his presence in those trailers that intrigued me.
Yep.
And we are still learning, obviously, Indian film and the sort of big hitters, you know, within the Indian film industry.
I know a good
And
dozen now.
yeah, and
Unreal.
we didn't really know too much about, you know, Joseph Vijay, as his Sunday name is. And I think just seeing this guy in one trailer, I was hooked. I was like, I need to see this guy now. You know, he's caught my eye. He's got great screen presence. There's something about his chemistry within the other actors he's bouncing off of as well. His look as well, a very cool looking guy.
Absolutely.
But
The
there's just
beard.
something about that. But the other thing as well was obviously our community on YouTube telling us all about this guy. We learned a lot between the trailer and watching this film from our community. So we'd like to thank you guys for obviously filling us in about this guy's film history, what he represents, you know, in Indian society, which is also important, I think, in his portrayal of his character in this film.
By all accounts, very
Yeah,
down to earth. Very cool
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
Behind
yeah.
the camera and on the camera. Stephen, I agree. He lived up to it. His energy was a constant throughout this movie, nearly 3 hours long. This guy was the centrepiece, and I'll flat out say it. There was other performers, and we'll get into the other performers. But if he wasn't on his A game, this movie would have collapsed completely. This guy's on his
Agree.
A game
Yeah.
here. I don't actually know if he's went beyond an A game because there will be other movies. If this is this guy in his mid to late 40s, what the hell was he like in his early 20s? He would have
Yeah.
been an absolute force of nature, freak of nature. So he was fantastic in this. He was very, very cool. The sunglasses, the beard, the shot game, his moves, everything about him, just charm offensive, heavily charismatic, cool guy.
His
Everyone's
bracelet as well.
Yep, his bracelet. Oh, that comes into good effect later on in the movie. What a
Yeah.
scene and moment that is. Everyone's dripping off him, Stephen. The women are dripping
Yeah.
off him. These young guys are dripping off him in the dance sequences. You see it, they're in complete awe of this guy. I always go back to that little tattooed dude in the Cootie song. He's staring into his eyes at the end. He's like, I cannot believe I'm sharing the same space as this guy. So he's just an absolute force of nature. And you can see it throughout this movie. The very beginning of the movie, his introduction is just sublime. He slips out of the car. He's walking down the
Yeah.
street clutching a banana. And he's just absolutely fantastic, man. The dance sequences, everything about his presence in this movie was great. Stephen, the story though, I'm sure we'll speak about some of his standout moments
Yeah.
because I'm certainly going to get into it later on in the review. But your thoughts on the story in general, I'm not going to delve too deeply into it. The writing, the character development, the way it ebbed and flowed, I've says, themes explored, and of course, ultimately the ending. I have to say, I loved the writing. I thought the writing was pretty damn decent. I liked the story. I thought it was like a duology of these two different guys. One's got everything, but he's kind of fell in hard times. He's a drunk. Ultimately, though, he wants to hone and make the best out of kids, give them a bright future. This other guy, he's had nothing. He's rose up to being a real prominent godfather-like figure, and his one aim is just to use the kids, abuse them, and send them away to prison for his sort of nefarious own needs and wants. So it was these two very different guys from different polar opposites clashing together. It's like the unstoppable force meets the unmovable object. I loved that aspect of the story.
Yeah.
It was very well wrote. It ebbed and flowed beautifully. I was 2 hours in. I didn't stop watching this movie until 3:45 in the morning. I started at 10 to 2 or something, or 10 to 1, I can't recall. I think it was probably 10 to 2. 2 hours plus in, and I just couldn't stop watching it. I don't think you can speak more highly of a story than that. It's got you absolutely transfixed. Just beyond the intermission, I reached in one sitting. So, I don't know what your thoughts are. I'll certainly get back into it, but I'll let you back in. I'll not dominate it. Stephen, what was your thoughts on the story of in this movie?
Structurally, John, the story was like a 3-act play. You've got the first act, which is establishing the characters, which I felt they did really well. Didn't really bog down too much in character development or anything like that. The development was carried on through the story, so we weren't getting bogged down too much about that. I liked the way that the characters were introduced. We got the obviously Bavani first.
Bavani,
I
yeah,
thought his origins was fantastic.
was really good.
I've not seen that, John. I've not seen a villain being established first in his origins in a movie probably since Batman, the Tim Burton 1989 one, where we got obviously the Joker's origins. In this one, Bavani's sort of uprise was established very early on in this film, and that took me aback. The second sort of act of it was the problem. The problem within the film. What is the problem? You know, and how are they going to, you know, solve the problem? And obviously, the third act is the solution. But I felt structurally the writing was first class. I felt that they managed a big cast as well, John. That's something else we have to talk
Huge.
about, you know, and a lot of characters in there. And sometimes you can get really lost in a big film, like it's a big production, a 3-hour movie with a big cast.
That was therapy for you, Stephen. That was his
Yeah,
job.
I felt I got to know all these characters very early on. That first hour of the film, the second hour of the film really was the build up between you know, JD and Bavani eventually meeting. It felt like forever before we got to get these guys on the same, you know.
Well, that would be my one critique of the
scene.
movie, Stephen. That would my one issue with this movie would be the second half of the movie, and probably the third act I should say. I can't speak in general. It really did lag a bit. This gap between him meeting with Bavani and facing off, that was the one issue I'd have with the movie. First half was incredible, it flowed really quickly. We introduced all of the aspects of the story, Bavani, JD, the students, this juvenile reformatory, all of this stuff was, you know, in early doors. The second act, it felt like we were just tiding over, waiting. We had the little sort of artful dodger from Oliver Twist, little guy, he was great, I loved that little kid.
Yeah.
He lost his mother, I think, ended up in this juvenile reformatory. But that story more focusing on the kids and what was going on with them. And then finally we get that amazing ending between obviously JD and Bavani, that face-off. But that'd be my only issue. It did kind of lag just a little bit in the third act, second half of the movie, but it wasn't nothing major for me. I still enjoyed it. I battered it the last 45, 50 minutes today and thoroughly enjoyed the ending. Again, it flew by, but it did lag compared to the first half. Stephen, man, what you say is obviously about 3 acts and it playing out beautifully. It really did. The Bavani introduction, I've completely forgot about that. That was an amazing intro, showing this rise of this guy. Yeah. He goes to this juvenile reformatory. He has 1 year there. He's battered. He's not getting fed. He's getting mistreated. He breaks out. Does a deal with the sort of ringleader who puts him in there in the first place, kills his parents. I love that. I love that rise. And right away, I'm like, they're kind of humanising this villain.
Give me 1 week.
Yeah, 1 week.
Money, yeah.
I'll make the money, I'll give you half of it. I love the way he killed him as well. Was that not amazing? 80 lakhs. They were like, this is a disgrace. I'm not taking the money. We're not standing here taking this at 20. By the time it rose to 80 lakhs, they're shutting the gates and letting him have his way. And that's a sort of theme for Bavani throughout this movie. I'll give you 2 minutes to kill me and save such and such. He does it with the little kid and his brother. He does it with the 3 guys that put him in this position. Later on, he does it with another guy. I think it's the trade leader, or union leader that he's vying for. And then again, he tries to do it with obviously JD at some point, and he absolutely destroys him. So I enjoyed that aspect. I enjoyed the way it flowed. I enjoyed the way it introduced various components of a story. I really enjoyed it, period, man. I thought it was a nice little story. It's not something we've not seen before. We've also seen aspects of this before in other movies, Stephen. This concept of yin and yang combining, and the Godfather sort of elements, and abusing and using the sort of lower plebeians.
I think as well, John. I think as well for the protagonist. I think if you're going to be sort of prodding the antagonist, you're going to get the repercussions. We got that in this film, and it was no surprise. You know, there is bits that are going to be very predictable, but it's how it's played out and how it's executed, and that's, as you said, that's down to the writing. You can get a very simple storyline. I think this storyline is very simple. When you look at the sort of whole picture of it,
Yeah.
but it's the writing of it that keeps you interested. And how it's executed as well.
Absolutely, Stephen. We'll move on though to standout moments in this movie. This is the next little point. Favourite scenes and sequences. We're not going to speak about the dance sequences in this moment. I've got a separate part dedicated to that for this review, because we'll get into dance sequences again. Cutie Story etched in my brain, man. I've got the lyrics down below. Absolutely love that song. What a performance from Telepathy, or just VJ as we'll call him, because I'll not give him his Sunday name because it's nowhere near as good as Telepathy. General just rings better for this guy. Standout moments though, Stephen. Again, JD's introduction. We have Telepathy coming onto the screen. He slips out the car. He's clearing buses. He's battering shit out of people on trains. The way it's just weaving him through into the dance sequence, establishing the fact he's a bit of a drunk, but he's got lots of energy and he commands huge respect from all of his students. They all love this guy. The school board hate him. The kids love him. He's a maverick. I love that element. I don't know if that's something that was a standout.
John, I actually forgot about that. Yeah, I actually forgot about the opening sequence with the throwing the mobile phone to hold the train doors open.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I thought that was amazing. I don't know how they did that. It was really well done. But the other bit that I liked was the sort of wrestling that they did within the compound. I thought that was excellent. Just felt
Kabaddi.
I felt
Kabaddi.
the tension, in that scene. Just the way it was executed. I think this is when he first established as well some of the lads that were in that compound were actually over the age, and I thought, he's going to have fun now. Is that But there is some standout moments. But I think that opening sequence, it was a great, really fast-paced action. Opening for the character and the wrestling scene for me. I think
the little music as well. The music sort of you're hearing his music through his AirPods or his eye. It's just his what are the actual wireless AirPods called?
AirPods.
I've got the wired, the wired ones. I'm thinking about. He's got the wired ones. One of the guys on the motorbike had a wireless pair. Yeah, Stephen, I love the Kabaddi moment too. Also, the little shithead who breaks the kids or pops the kid's arms out in the showers. He gets him in that wrestling sequence. He slaps a kid as well. He grabs him and just destroys him. I love the fact he took his shirt off. He had the tank top on. The muscles are rippling. We see that at the end as well, man. He's an absolute unit, this guy.
Yeah.
That was one of my favourite moments. Cutie Story, I was going to get into that later on, and I will get into it later on. That is a standout moment for me, as I did say. Him cleaning up his look as well, Stephen. Obviously, when the kids get hanged, that's a sad. I hate saying it. It's a sobering moment, a sobering, if I can speak, moment in this movie for JD and the audience. But you see the real depths to which Bhavani is willing to go. He hangs the 15-year-old and his little brother, and that impact it has on JD in this story, it sobers him. He gets rid of the Jack Daniels. It pained me seeing him throwing it out because I love Jack Daniels, like him. And that's a real crossroads for this guy. He sees the mother grieving. He gets a berating from the female. I'll try and find her name. I think it's actually what's her name? I think it's Karulafa in it. I don't know if that's how you say the name, but he gets a berating, and this changes course for him. He cleans up. He gets a slight shave. He puts on new gear and stuff like that. He's away from the drink, and he tries starting to have an impact on these kids. I like that moment. Obviously, the police are locking them up as well. There's lots of shit going on. I enjoyed that. It was a standout moment for me too.
There was bits in there that were designed to provoke the audience, and that was one of them. Obviously, the kids getting hung, which to me, I don't know how you felt. I was very angry. Obviously very angry towards the situation because they were reaching out to JD at this point, and he was hungover, sleeping off his drink.
Flat out ignoring it. He was drinking the Jack Daniels and ignoring the phone call. That's what I'd be doing as well. But
and also the chase scene with is it Charulatha? Is that what you call her?
Charulatha,
down the streets. She's trying to get away.
Stephen, I love that. The little kid. He knew the guy on FaceTime. He says, "That's my sister." He's like, "Oh, it's your sister. We've been tasked to deal with her one final time. Give me the camera and I'll let her go." I love that sequence. That was brilliant.
And it's to provoke the audience. That's why when we get to sort of climatic bits with Bhavani and JD, where I'm actually shouting at the television, I'm like, "Take the bastard out!" I'm just fucking knock him out, fucking do him in. That's the Glaswegian in me, by the way. Do him in.
Kill him.
I get
And it
really wound
does.
up with these sort of storylines because it all builds up the hanging scene, the chase scene, through the streets.
This guy's
Try,
slapping everybody about as well. Bivani, he
yeah,
slaps about the trade union leader and his men. He's punching people and killing them with one punch. He obviously
yeah,
punches or strangles a little boy as well. He tries to go at him with the bone. By the way, that biryani thigh, oh my god, that looked amazing. I'd have ate that off the ground. I'll tell you that
yeah.
right now. But you're right, Stephen. Bolt and bolt and bolt. This guy's cruelty, the way he was treating people, his personality, he was very abrasive. But you could see that people were terrified. Stephen, another standout moment just came to me when JD gets into his den and he grabs Bivani and he doesn't really realise it's Bivani. He's got the pen at his
Oh,
neck. What kind of sissy name is Bivani? And he's slapping him about. And the guy throws the bottle and it hits him in the head, man. I love that. That was absolutely
it
amazing.
was so funny, and I knew that Bavani was going to hoof through that ball. The other bit as well, John, I wondered about that scene because I thought, what was the point of that scene? But when I looked back at it and I thought about it, I have a, I would say maybe about 90% convinced that JD knew that was him,
Yeah.
and
He
that
did.
was him sending a message.
I mean,
I'm
he's not
almost
scared of him.
convinced. No, he's not scared of him.
No.
It's almost like the Dead Man Shoes scene. He was that
Absolutely.
close to him. He could have done him in.
Watched over when you slept. I could have sliced your throat.
Mm.
It's exactly like that, Stephen. Everybody around Bivani's utterly terrified of this guy, of what he's going to do. They're sitting next to him. They're nervous wrecks. He's stabbing hell out the guy in the truck as well. That was a gruesome scene. So for JD to walk right into his midst, have him at knife point or pen point, whatever you want to call it, that was just another important scene. It showed this guy ain't scared of you. And of course that ignites that fire within Bivani. He ultimately wants to go and kill all of his students that are close to him. And that was a
Yeah.
strange scene. I didn't really like that scene, Stephen, I have to say. I did say it to you before we came on. That was another gripe of mine. This guy must have had satellite sort of technology. He was tracking the students' exact whereabouts. This truck driver's killing them all willy-nilly. The final standout sequence for me is the end, Stephen. The end fight. Amazing little fight at the end. We have that reverse moment, slow motion, where he punches him. I love the fact he punched him. Their fists collide, and he walks away, Bivani, and his hand's trembling. You can see the slice marks on his hand.
Yeah, I
And then
think the bracelet did that as
yeah,
well.
it reverses in slow motion. You see it hitting, and him dancing, and he's got the top off. Obviously, slaps him about like a wet kipper. It's a fish over here, incidentally, if you're not aware, a kipper. And then he's doing the little dance again, and then he sings Cootie Song again as well when he's hung him on the meat grinder, and that is obviously poetic as well, Stephen. He hangs the two little kids. This changes JD in the movie. He goes on a path of redemption. He wants to redeem himself, redeem the memory of these two kids, and he hangs him on the meat grinder, or the meat hook, whatever you want to call it. That was a great moment for me. What was your thoughts on the ending, Stephen? Did you like that fight sequence? The fact that
Yeah.
all through this movie, Bivani has been killing people with one punch. This is the first time he comes up against someone who can really handle him, and he's battering hell out of him. And the one great I would say is Bivani didn't get enough in to JD. He
No.
get off lightly, very lightly.
Yeah,
but
I
that's
think
just
so.
the power of the moment. He wants to kill this guy badly. So
J-
forgive
JD JD had that little speech as well towards the kids,
yeah, that was
the
great.
lads, where I think they were wanting to take out Bivani, when he was down, and he said, "That's not what I'm doing this for you, so you don't have to reach for another blade."
Yeah.
Basically, don't give him what he wants because yous are better than that. It was a nice little speech. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, John. I've
Yeah.
only seen the film once,
Stephen,
but
they had great
it was
speeches.
a nice message. Yeah, there was a lot of messages in there, John.
He had some amazing speeches. I think it was Bargaff, the student at his first college. He gets killed in the car. It gets T-boned. I think it was the guy that lost the election in the college election. He has a speech with the older kids at the juvenile reformatory at that moment as well, about he'd reformed himself. He was he'd done more damage than any of yous put together. He'd reformed himself. Now he's dead. And
They went him in a stick, didn't they?
yeah, the wardens were kind
Yeah.
of saying these guys are lost causes. Forget about them. He's like, nope. These guys can be reformed. He gives that speech and that turns them round. They gave him information about where the lorries are going. They're crossing the border.
Yeah.
That was a great moment. And obviously Das, Stephen. Das is another character. We'll get into him. I'm sure when we're speaking about performances. But Das was
Arjun Das, yeah.
yes, Arjun Das was a little Trojan warhorse, if you'd like. He sneaked in. He was a bit of a shithead. A laugh out loud moment for me when he get the beard trimmed. and he's on the phone to Bivani. He's trimmed half my beard. I feel naked. I was killing myself at that. He was a shithead, but he redeems himself at the end of the movie, and he becomes ultimately a decent little character. And I loved that moment. But we'll get into it. We'll get into it in the performances, where JD's telling little pokies about his backstory and love interests, and he's plagiarising moments from movies of bygone eras. But Stephen, I'll not speak about performances right now. We'll go into the dance sequences. I think we should. There's probably 3, maybe 3.5 noticeable dance sequences in this movie. Obviously, Vaffy Coming, we reacted to it. It's got about 50, 60,000 views. Absolutely loved it. That was a standout moment in the reactions of this movie. In this movie itself, it's all playing into JD's introduction to Master. He's waking up. He's been invited to this sort of school event with the school board are there and they're doing things. I don't know what it is. Even to this moment, I don't know what it was. But he's dancing about. That was a great moment. You've got Cootie Story, which is, I'm going to admit right now, my standout. I'm absolutely obsessed with the song. I love the dancing, the choreography, the way the camera was sweeping around. It was absolutely brilliant. You've got Bivani's dance sequence, if you can call it Bivani. He gets up for a brief moment and then they start cheering and then he starts slapping him about. And then finally at the end you've got a little dance scene where it's almost like the Cootie Story beat. The little kid that he's took a shining to starts playing on the little metal plate dish, and he kind of does a little dance there, but it's not really a dance sequence. So what was your standout, Stephen? Was it Cootie Story like me? I think you kind of agree it is. Yeah.
I think it was, John, because of this, where it was in the compound. And, this film, it almost reminds me of Coach Carter, the Samuel Jackson film, the way he's got to go and try and reform these sort of delinquents, and just get in there and trying to sort of, change lives, change young guys' lives, that don't feel like they've got any escape or any hope or anything like that. There was something about that song that just uplifted the whole place. It was an important message, I felt.
Yep.
He wasn't going to win everyone over with that dance and song routine. Clearly not. There was obviously the likes of Das and that were very pessimistic about his
There was a great
arrival.
close-up of Das.
Yeah.
So looking at him, he was just looking over.
Yeah.
No interest whatsoever. So you're right, yeah.
It was important. That's why I like it, John. Not just obviously because it was a catchy number. It certainly was, and it's one of those ones that stick in your head. But it was the message as well. A very important message.
Stephen, it's a blend of English and Indian as well that I love. I'm saying Indian. There's about 50 million different dialects in India.
Yeah.
But I loved it, man. It's just to let me sing a Cootie Story. Pay attention, listen to me. If you want, take it or else. Vinam tension, leave it, baby. Life is very short and by. Always be happy. I just loved it. Palavida, the way he says Palavida. I don't even know what Palavida means, but the way he says Palavida, it's just brilliant. It's a great singing voice. We had comments in our reaction that he always does a song and dance number. He sings in every movie. The director always wants him to sing. Telepathy, that is. He's got a great voice. He's a great dancer. Again, that sequence by far the standout. And look, Vaffy Coming was amazing. It's got energy. It's raucous, or raucous, however you say that. That was a great moment too. It was close, but Cootie Story just had more poignancy. He's connecting with these little kids, these juveniles that are in this reformatory. It was a great song and dance for me. So that was a standout for me, Stephen. But look, performances, Stephen. We spoke about Telepathy, VJ at the start. It stands to reason he is the star performer in this movie. An absolute standout. If his performance didn't work, the whole thing would have crumbled. It didn't. He was absolutely amazing. I want to go back and watch this guy's other movies now because I'm intrigued. This is him in his late 40s. What the hell was he like 20 years ago? I need to watch all of his movies now. Who was the other standout performances, Stephen, for you? Because I've got a few in there. Bivani, obviously. We've got
I would
the other VJ.
Seth Pali,
Yeah.
Him for me had a great presence in the film. When you look back, he's not in the film a lot. He's not in it as much as obviously Joseph Fiji. And the other one I liked was Arjun Das as well.
Yeah, Arjun Das was great.
There was just something about the character, as I would say maybe a secondary character, but for me, Vijay Sethupathi was probably just shy of being the standout performance, and that was only because he wasn't on the screen as much. As a villain, he was convincing, manipulative,
sociopathic.
cunning. Yeah, you know,
Psychopath.
and it was, you know, he just built an empire, you know, and you could see the sort of frustrations in the JD character at times. There was a point where he was driving and he heard that there was trouble back at the compound again, you know, and he stopped the car and he was just rattling into the steering wheel. He was frustrated, and that's how we felt as well watching the film. You know, he just couldn't keep up with
Oh,
obviously the Bavani character,
the
and
guy
that was
had the
down
police
to
in his pocket and everything, Steve, and he had gangs
yeah,
roaming around the town. He had
yeah,
everything in his midst. He was the puppet
and
master.
and VJ Sethupathi, his performance in that was very convincing, and I would say he is secondary to obviously
Telepathy.
Joseph yeah, Telepathy, yeah. I don't like calling him that because I don't feel I've earned the right to call him that yet
Well, I'm
after only
calling him it.
watching one film, you know. But
That's just an
I'm
amazing name. It rips off
John,
the tongue.
I'm sure we'll go down a rabbit hole with this guy's
Oh,
films. I'm sure
absolutely.
we will.
Stephen, I think the guy's so cool. He's absolutely
Mm.
tremendous. But I spoke about him. I'm going to speak about VG Sethupathi. I agree with you. He was brilliant as a villain. And look, he's not like that in real life. I've seen him hugging and kissing Telepathy behind the scenes. So clearly they've got great rapport. I don't know if they've worked together before. I've seen a poster where I think it maybe hinted that these two worked together before. But he was a great performance as well. And I have to agree,
Yeah,
Arjun Das was brilliant as this little shithead falling aside for JD in the movie. And his redemptive arc was really, really cool as well. He was a great performance. I can't find the little kid. That little standout
well, I was
sort of
looking for him. Yeah,
talkative kid. He was brilliant as well for such a young
yeah.
guy. That was a great little performance. He had a sizable chunk of the second half of the movie, and he was a standout. I can't think of anyone else really. Maybe some of the students at the start, they were standout, but very brief. Blinking you'll miss it and they're
Yeah.
away. So for me, it's definitely Telepathy number one, and probably Sethupathi, VG Sethupathi number two with Arjun Das, sort of third place close. But Stephen, technical stuff, we're going to move on to that now. Technical stuff before we round up our thoughts in this review and actually rate it. Or the movie and actually rate it, not the review. If we were rating my review, it'd probably be a D or an F. Technical stuff, Stephen. Cinematography, score, editing, choreography, everything in between, man. I loved the score. Thought the score was
John, I was going to
absolutely
talk about the
brilliant.
score. And the reason for that is because what I have found when we've went down this rabbit hole of Indian cinema is sometimes the musical numbers can sort of draw your attention more than the score. I don't think it's obviously a deliberate thing or anything like that. I think it's just because of the format's new to ourselves and these kind of things stick in our minds a little bit more. But you're right, the score in this film was well executed. I felt it captured the emotions at the right time throughout the movie, whether it be a sad moment or an uplifting moment. It just seemed to just do the trick. But you're absolutely right. The cinematography for me as well. There was a lot of overhead shots, which I like. You get a sort of idea of the landscape, of the surroundings and that kind of thing. But there was always the cinematography throughout the fighting sequences as well, which
Yeah.
is always
It's
important.
hard to capture.
Those close-ups, though, and the slow motions of the punching, I felt was very important. It kind of gave you an idea, obviously,
Of the
um,
force.
the force, of Bhavani, which I felt was needed. Physically, he's not. How can I put this? He's not as imposing.
Your voice is away, Stephen. We've lost your audio. I think you've pressed the cable in at the back. But I do agree. I agree on the cinematography. I think the way they captured the trucks as well with the arrows hitting them, that was very impressive as well. The trucks obviously
Yeah.
crashing into boulders and stuff like that. And you're right, the fighting sequences were really expertly captured. Some amazing slow-mos, some amazing punches being captured. And just the way they slickly caught the action in the dance sequences, it was a really well put together movie from a visual standpoint, from a filming standpoint. I'm going to check who the actual cinematographer is, Stephen, but I think it was Anirudh Ravi Chanda was the composer, and I have to say I was blown away with the actual score in this movie. A couple of little songs I couldn't find. The one after the intermission, it's a little down-tempo sort of electronic thing, and with guitars and stuff. I loved that. That was a cool little moment. The character of
Yeah.
JD's obviously speaking about what happened with the kids and stuff like that. That was a cool little moment. The cinematographer is Safyan Suryan, and this guy's worked in the likes of Kaifi, which we are desperate to see as well. We're going to have to try and get our hands on that. So he's done a great job. And obviously the editing and stuff like that, it was a slightly edited movie, Stephen. There was barely a a moment wasted. It did lag a bit in the second half, but I don't think that was down to editing. I think that was just down to necessity in telling this story, the way the screenwriter wanted it told. I thought it was pretty well edited. It flowed well. It went over in a blink of an eye. It was 3 hours nearly, and it felt a lot shorter. So I thought, all in all, technically, it was really masterful, the movie. But I cut out. I cut in, Stephen, when you were obviously having issues with your audio. I don't know if you've got anything else to say about the fighting sort of stuff, the way it was captured, because you were mid-flow. Now you froze, Stephen. You're having a mare.
Physical appearance. You know, his physical appearance. Can you hear me, John?
I can hear you. Yeah, you froze very briefly.
Yeah, his physical appearance. It was important to note that he was a brute of a man, and I think that was important in the cinematography for his sort of action sequences. That his force was his sort of powers. You know, he wasn't the most agile. You know, like obviously
he's heavy.
JD. Yeah,
He's heavy, Paffy was heavy as hell in this movie. He was packing the pounds, and he'll be the first to admit it. But it was needed.
And you know, exactly, John. And I think the only thing, my only gripe, I know your gripe is more about the sort of that third act being drawn out a little bit. My only gripe probably was JD's sort of backstory and why he was a drunk. I felt that they could have told that a lot earlier, and when they did tell it, it was basically his mentor died. What? You know what I mean? Who's this mentor? We've not even spoke about him.
Yeah.
You know that much, and I just felt there could have been a more emotional impact in that sort of his downfall. You know, why he became a drunk. But I just felt it was kind of skimmed over by the point we got to it, because it built up. I felt it was building up to something. Oh, something's really, you know, bad has happened in his life for him to act the way he's acting.
What I would say about that though, Stephen, is he says himself when he's speaking to the lady in the juvenile reformatory, she asks him, why you like this? And he doesn't really touch upon it. He's not a guy that shares his thoughts very well.
No.
He makes up stories, as I did say. He takes from classic movies, the likes of Titanic and the other one. I think it was an Indian movie. And they were slagging him off for it. He then goes on to say, that's why I quit drinking. Do you want to know why I quit? And he points to the kids. So I think it was more about him looking forward. They didn't want to delve into his backstory and his past. They wanted to delve into this guy reforming, moving forward, becoming a better guy, losing the drink and reshaping these kids. Because I think he was a personality sort of, I can't recall, a persona teacher. He was teaching these kids how to be more rounded individuals, to have confidence and be outgoing and stuff like that. And you can see it in the teaching sequence at the start. He's getting them to bounce about and freeze and starboard, I think he says, and stuff like that. So he's having a good impact on these kids. They all love him. So I think that's what it's more about, him going on this redemptive journey. So I'll give them a bye for that. But yeah, again, I only really had one issue, Stephen. It lagging a little bit in the third act, just a little bit. If I was being really nitpicky, I would start picking on maybe Bhavani being a little bit 2D. But man, it is what it is. He's a villain. You're meant to hate this guy. You're meant to love JD. You want him to crack his jaw and bring him down, and that's ultimately what he does. And it's a great sort of crescendo at that end of the movie. So I've got no issues with that, man. If you're going to start nitpicking in every single little thing in a movie, there is no perfect movie out there, Stephen, but some are pretty damn close. Some are close, man. But overall thoughts, Stephen, before we rate the movie, I'm hoping I've got the right macro here. But we're doing something different here. We're starting to rate movies, man. And as I did say, I'm just going to go over it one more time. We've got F, D, C, B, and A. F is utterly shit, catastrophically bad. D is really bad as well. C is average to good. B is very, very good. A is perfection. Like, the cinema gods have come down and touched this movie, and it is just unbelievably perfect. Like, you're just, wow. So, Stephen, with that in mind, overall thoughts, and then we'll get into the rating.
Overall thoughts, John, is I want to see more of this guy's films after watching this.
I think Stephen's froze again. Oh dear. Maybe we'll not be giving more overall thoughts. We may have to go to a be right back, guys.
You know,
he's back.
It lived up to everything. You know, that I expected it to be. I just felt that watching those two trailers and then the segments as well, Didn't disappoint at all. Sometimes when you see too much in trailers or segments from films, it kind of kills it and ruins the story. But I felt, for me, it didn't do that. It
No.
actually heightened the experience.
Stephen, I absolutely loved this movie. As I did say, I watched over 2 hours in the early hours of this morning. I didn't stop watching it until 10 to 4. It flowed really, really well. It was slickly edited. It was a really commanding performance from Telepathy VG. He was immense. I want to go back and watch this guy's movies now. He's just an all-seeing, all-hearing beast of an actor. He can sing, he can dance, he can act like hell. You can, through the whole human lexicon of emotions in this movie, crying, absolutely joyous, everything. He was immense. I liked the villain to a point. I just really, really enjoyed it, and I completely agree with you. Sometimes when you react to scenes that have been took out of the movie, it can be taken out of context and it can lose meaning, and it impacts your enjoyment when you finally watch the movie as a whole. But not the case with this. You can actually go and watch those dance numbers independently, and they hold up. You watch it in the movie, the context of the movie, the way it organically weaves into the story. No other movie industry can do it like the Indian movie industry seem to be able to do it. Weaving the song and dance numbers into the movie. It's just part of the culture. I think we seen someone comment the other day, if you're shocked by this, then watch more, I think, Southern Indian movies, because we love this, we do this all the time, and you can see it, it's just perfectly honed. So I've really loved all aspects of the movie, not much really wrong with it. And on that note, Sam, we're going to rate it. How are we going to do this, man? We've got a little macro that I'll press, it'll come up. So
Yeah, we've already discussed it, so you might as well bring it up.
Yes, here's the rating we give to this movie, guys. We give it a B. So there you go. Utterly shite. Wow, how bad is that? We need to come up with some better way of building to our rating. Maybe give it at the start or something.
You might want to choose your words carefully there. You said you were giving it a rating, then you went utterly shite.
No, the actual macro. The little visual. The visual that I put up was utterly shite. This movie, not utterly shite. This movie, absolutely brilliant. Very, very, very good. But not quite perfect, so it doesn't get an A for us. Stephen, I've not got much more to add, man. I think that's going to round our review up. We tried to keep it under a half an hour. It's ultimately bled over to 42 minutes. I'm sure we'll get better at reviewing. Yeah, it's not bad. It's usually over an hour. We just can't help ourselves. We love talking a load of shite, guys. But if you're watching this back, I do apologise for saying utterly shite at the very wrong time there. I'm not speaking about the movie. The movie was very, very good. Graphic that I flashed up, utterly shite. Just for context. But that's going to round up our review of Master. Have you watched Master? What's your thoughts on this movie? How did you view certain aspects of performances, standout moments, dance sequences, overall thoughts on the movie? This review, if you've got anything to say at all, you can comment down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and maybe recommend some other movies to watch with telepathies as well, because we certainly want to go back and watch this guy's movies and maybe review them as well. So if you can give us a list of his best movies, then we'll certainly dive down that rabbit hole and watch this guy's stuff. But look, until then, guys, that's going to be the end. We'll bid you farewell with a bye-bye. No, we won't. We'll bid you. There we go. Bye-bye, guys.